The Goblet of Fire Portkey plot hole. At the end of Goblet of Fire, everything that happened across that entire year, the elaborate manipulation of the tournament, the murder of a student, the impeachment of a ministry official, was done to place a portkey in Harry's hands and transport him to a graveyard. Barty Crouch Jr. spent an entire school year disguised as a respected Auror to make that happen. But the plan itself was enormously overcomplicated. A portkey is just an enchanted object. Barty Crouch Jr. had full access to Hogwarts, to Harry's belongings, to Harry's daily routine. He could have turned a quill, a book, or Harry's own trunk into a portkey at virtually any point during the year. There was no need for the Triwizard Tournament. There was no need for the months of maneuvering. Voldemort needed Harry's blood for the ritual, but getting close enough to take it did not require all of this. As a piece of actual strategy from one of the most dangerous dark wizards in history, it barely holds up. Peter Pettigrew on the Marauder's map. Ron Weasley carried Scabbers with him everywhere. The rat slept in his dormitory, traveled with him on the Hogwarts Express, and was present for years of his life at school. What no one knew was that Scabbers was not a rat at all. He was Peter Pettigrew, a fully grown wizard disguised as a family pet. The Marauder's map shows every person inside Hogwarts, labeled by name. Fred and George had that map for years, and on any occasion when they looked up Ron's position, Peter Pettigrew's name would have been sitting right next to his. Every night, in the dormitory. The twins said themselves that they had studied the map thoroughly. They used it constantly to avoid Filch and plan their pranks. The name Peter Pettigrew may have meant nothing to them personally, but a grown man's name appearing beside their younger brother every single night, with no explanation, should have been strange enough to raise a question. That it never did remains one of the most glaring oversights in the series. Veritaserum. It is one of the most powerful potions in the wizarding world. Just 3 drops are enough to force anyone who drinks it to tell the complete truth, and yet the Ministry of Magic used it almost never. The moment where this matters most is in the aftermath of the First Wizarding War. When Voldemort fell, his followers went on trial. Many claimed they had been acting under the Imperius Curse, that they were victims. The Ministry largely accepted those defenses without much scrutiny. The wrong people went free. The wrong people were imprisoned. Sirius Black was never even given a trial at all. A few drops of Veritaserum could have cut through every one of those defenses immediately, separated the guilty from the innocent, and ensured that people like Barty Crouch Jr. were identified and locked away for good. The books never give a convincing reason for why it wasn't used, and the consequences of that failure haunted the wizarding world for years. Fred and George discovering the Marauder's map. The Marauder's map can only be activated with a specific incantation known only to its creators. When it was confiscated by Filch, it sat in his office labeled as a confiscated and highly dangerous item. Fred and George stole it, figured out how to use it, and relied on it for years. The problem is that none of that should have been possible. The password was known only to James Potter, Sirius Black, Remus Lupin, and Peter Pettigrew, who had long since left school. When Snape later got hold of the map and tried to read it, he couldn't. The map insulted him to his face and revealed nothing. So it wasn't a matter of simply finding an interesting piece of parchment and experimenting. There was a specific phrase with a specific intention behind it, and no clear way for 2 Hogwarts students to have stumbled onto it. The books never explain how they did. The more you think about it, the harder it is to let go. The Unbreakable Vow. 2 people make a binding magical agreement, and if either party breaks it, they die. No loophole, no escape. It is the most absolute form of magical enforcement in the series, and Voldemort never once used it to bind his Death Eaters to him. That is a remarkable oversight for someone who spent decades punishing disloyalty with torture or death. He relied on fear and legitimacy to keep people in line, but both of those can be worked around. An unbreakable vow cannot. The vow clearly existed within his inner circle. Snape took one with Narcissa Malfoy, swearing to protect Draco. Voldemort's own followers knew exactly what it was. If he had required every Death Eater to swear one, Snape's double life would have been impossible from the start. Whether it was arrogance or a simple oversight, it remains one of the most consequential gaps in Voldemort's approach to control. Why Sirius waited so long to escape? Sirius Black spent 12 years in Azkaban for crimes he did not commit, placed there without a trial. And when he finally escaped, the method was not particularly complex. He transformed into his animagus form and had lost enough weight that he could slip through the bars of his cell. Which raises an obvious question. Why did he wait 12 years? The answer comes down to the Dementors. Prolonged exposure didn't just cause suffering, it hollowed people out, stripped away the will to act, and left them with nothing but their worst memories on a continuous loop. What finally broke through was a newspaper photograph. He saw Peter Pettigrew in the Daily Prophet, sitting on Ron Weasley's shoulder, alive and hiding as a pet. The man Sirius had been accused of killing. That photograph gave him a reason to move. Without it, there was simply nothing left inside him that believed escape was worth attempting. Harry forgot the mirror. In Order of the Phoenix, Harry sees a vision of Sirius being tortured in the Department of Mysteries. He doesn't stop to question it. He gathers a group of students and races to the Ministry to save him. It was a trap. Voldemort had planted the vision deliberately, and Sirius, who came to help, was killed in the battle that followed. What makes this so painful is that Harry had a direct line to Sirius the entire time. Earlier in the series, Sirius had given him a two-way mirror, the same kind he and James Potter used during their school days to communicate instantly and privately. Harry had it. It was in his dormitory. One look into that mirror, and Sirius would have answered from Grimmauld Place, alive and fine, and none of it would have happened. Hermione pushed back before they left. Others hesitated. But no one thought of the mirror. Rowling herself admitted this was a mistake she regretted. The book acknowledges it afterward, which almost makes it harder to accept. Sirius Black and the Polyjuice Potion. During Order of the Phoenix, Sirius spent most of his time trapped inside Grimmauld Place, confined to a house he despised and cut off from the war he desperately wanted to fight. The Ministry knew his face. His animagus form had been identified. He was watching from the sidelines while others fought, and yet the obvious solution was never once considered. Polyjuice Potion allows a witch or wizard to take on the complete physical appearance of someone else. It's true that one key ingredient, boomslang skin, is not easy to come by, but the Order was full of experienced witches and wizards with resources and connections. Getting hold of the potion was far from impossible. Sirius could have assumed the identity of any trusted Order member and moved freely without anyone recognizing him. He could have stood beside Harry in the Department of Mysteries that night. Instead, the option was never raised, never discussed, never even hinted at. And Sirius died because he had to come out in the open to reach the others.